Welcome to GarageBand Weekly. Let's do it. Yells, welcome back to Studio Live today and GarageBand Weekly for yet another week. We've got a lot coming up here on the show. I'm going to show you how to get 15 free plugins on your GarageBand iOS if you've never enabled the Apple plugins before. We're going to talk about the difference between inter-app audio and audio unit when it comes to instruments, and our feature topic, we're going to be giving you some GarageBand alternatives. Ever been bugged by that friend saying, hey, I don't want to use GarageBand, I don't even have an iPhone or an Apple device, what do I use? Well, I got 5 different options that you can throw their way if they don't want to join the light side and start using GarageBand. But I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great weekend wherever you are in the world. It is Monday morning here in Australia, Sunday afternoon for many of you in different parts of the world. Let's jump in and tackle some news and notes, shall we? Because there's a bit going on and there's a bit to talk about in the world of Apple, at least, if not GarageBand specifically. So the big news at the moment is that the Apple event that was rumored, that was almost locked in for the 23rd of March appears to be, drumroll please, not happening. That's right. The anticlimactical GarageBand event for the 23rd of March appears to not actually be happening, and instead, we don't really know. But the rumor mill is now saying April, and if you have been following the Mac rumors and the Apple rumors, Jon Prosser from Front Page Tech came out and said it will definitely be the 23rd, and if it's not going to be the 23rd, he will shave off his eyebrows. So, yeah, it's not going to be the 23rd, so see you later to Jon Prosser's eyebrows. There you go. But yeah, it's a weird one because a lot of different folks, a lot of different leakers said the 23rd of March and came out and were very adamant about it. And it appears, speculation rumor, get your tinfoil hats on, it appears that Apple may have planted some seeds that would be the case. And maybe even their informants or the secret people inside Apple that dish out all these rumors were sent up the garden path too, which I think is actually kind of super funny. Because, hey, you're going to get involved in this leak culture stuff. Guess what? You're going to get burnt sometimes because, Apple have just decided that they'll say, 23rd of March, new iPads, new iMacs, new everything, AirTags, it's all coming, 23rd of March, lock it in, guys. No, not going to happen. So we will see. We'll see where this goes because I know a lot of folks are looking out for the new iPad Air 2021, the new iMacs with M1. There's been a lot of rumors. Turns out we're going to have to wait another month to get any of them. So what do you think? Are you looking forward to this event? Are you now just grief-stricken because there is no event? Or will you just be saving your cash for another 30 days? Well, whatever it is, let me know what you think. There's not been a whole lot else in the Apple world, except for this. If you're old, like me, you would remember the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads back in the day. Yeah, John Hodgman, Justin Long. John Hodgman was the stodgy old, I'm a PC, I have to restart, I'm always crashing. And Justin Long was the cool, hey, I'm a Mac, I don't get viruses, you don't have to restart me, hey. And now, guess what? Money talks and apparently Apple walks because Justin Long is now on the Intel side. Now, I didn't prepare anything here, but let's just see if we can find Justin Long Intel. I'll just see if I can get a quick look at this. I don't want to get into trouble, so I won't play the audio here, but you can see over here, we'll just share my screen. You can see over here and you can check out these ads for yourself, but here are the Intel ads. Justin gets real having choices. So let's just play like 5 seconds of this. There he is, it's very similar. He's like, hey, I'm Justin. So he doesn't actually say I'm a Mac or I'm a PC, and he goes away and says, look at all this vast range of PCs, and then he shows the Macs and says, that compared to like this one Mac that you can have. Anyway, won't show any more of that, otherwise I'll have Intel on my back. But sorry, I'll just show this bit. There he is. He's like, oh, how boring is it to just have a Mac? Now, this sounds a bit weird because I'm far from an Apple fanboy. I bought my first Apple last year, my first Apple computer of all time, and I'm in my 40s. So it's not that I think that there's one side or the other. In fact, I don't care. But what I'm a little bit sad about is that instead of saying, hey, we're the market leaders, we're not actually worried about this one company putting out this one chip, Intel have come out with all guns blazing saying, here's why Intel is better. And the sad thing is that when you're a market leader, and Rene Ritchie actually mentioned this, he said, when you're Coca-Cola, You don't go out there. Coca-Cola don't do the Pepsi challenge. Pepsi do. Because when you're the market leader, you just have the confidence to say, hey, we make good products. Here's our good products. We don't need to go into this back and forth competitive thing. It was Apple that started that 10 years ago. And now, yeah, it seems that Intel are just hitting the panic button and going out and having to say why they're so good and why you should get an Intel product. Not sort of, dodging the fact that AMD are making probably faster and better processors for PCs than Intel. So, sorry, Intel, but yeah, you're not really showing your class there. But hey, who knows? Maybe they'll put a whole bunch of entertaining ads and maybe I'll bin my Mac Mini and go back to a PC. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Blues is saying my first Mac was 1988. See, there you go. You're representing. You're doing your thing. So thank you for that. And as Rob B says here, Apple Mac are great, but so expensive. Yeah. Here's the thing though. And again, I'm neither an Apple fanboy or apologist or hater, but they were so expensive until the last round of Mac M1. So the computer I bought here, it's $699 US. It was $1,099 and it flies along. And if I put $1,099 into a desktop PC, I don't think I'd be getting any better performance than what I'm getting from this little sucker here. So yeah, it is all subjective, isn't it? Why don't we jump in and talk about our feature topic here? But before we do, hello to everyone who is here. We've got Tom, Gary, Euphonium's here. We've got Mark Bro, Randy A, Michael, aka Zealand Band, Night Train 1988. I've got Arnie G in the house. Joe Glenn's here. Scott's here. Blues is here. We've got a heap of people. Asa BT. Thank you everyone for being here. If you do have questions, we will have answers going through the show. So please do throw your questions in here and we'll have some time for some Q&A. But as we always say, the easiest way to make sure that I see your question is if you put the word question in front of your comment, because a lot of folks chat during the show, which is awesome. But if you want to make sure I see it and know that you've got a question, put the word question in front of your question. All right, let's dive into our feature topic. And as I mentioned, not everyone has a Mac. Not everyone has an iPhone or an iPad. And even those that do, some folks don't like GarageBand. And I know it's weird on a GarageBand show to do a video about or a segment about GarageBand alternatives, but there are a bunch of alternatives that you can use instead of GarageBand. That some are free, some may cost you a tiny bit of coin, but there's a heap of good options out there, more now than there have ever been before. There, once upon a time, it was like, hey, if you've got a Mac, you get GarageBand. If you've got a PC, you kind of have to use Audacity if you want free audio editing, and that was about it. Whereas now, we've got a whole bunch more options. So let's jump in and show you these. If you have your own options, especially once we get to the end of this that I haven't considered, throw those here in the chat. Watching on the replay, throw those in the comments of this video, and we will definitely circle back to those because I definitely don't know everything. I know. Who would have thought it? Number one, Cakewalk by Bandlab. Now, this is this is a newish kind of piece of software, but here's the thing. If you know Cakewalk, you know that app's been around for a very long time. Now, this is Windows only. As you can see here, you can download it. It is a free digital audio workstation for Windows, and it's built off the backbone of Cakewalk. I used Cakewalk 20, 30 years ago. About 10 or 15 years ago, when I got back into digital recording, I used a bit of software called Cakewalk Music Studio, which was like their cut-down version, and it works well. It does a lot of good things. It's pretty simple. It's not exactly GarageBand, but it's got a lot of options in there, a lot of flexibility. You can still use plugins. You can use all the same sort of things. There you go, your most complete music production. You can compose, record, edit, mix, master, share. You can use it on your desktop, on your laptop, on your Windows-based tablets, and it does a good job. Someone who I recommend if you want to learn about and get into Cakewalk by Bandlab, my buddy Mike over at Creative Source. Just search Creative Source in your YouTube search boxes and check out Mike's beginning series where he goes into detail about getting started with Cakewalk by Bandlab. So if you do have a PC, and I do as well, and I've been meaning to actually try it out, but it's just, it's all about timing, right? I've been meaning to try it out, jump over, download it, it's free. That's the ridiculous thing. Cakewalk was expensive. Cakewalk was like hundreds of dollars for many, many years, and they kind of just sort of ground to a halt with Pro Tools and with all the other high-end expensive DAWs. But now you can pick it up for $0, £0, and €0. So that is option number one. While we're on the topic of Bandlab, guess what? Bandlab also have an online DAW that you can use. So regardless of your platform, regardless of whether you're Mac, PC, Android, iOS, you can use Bandlab. And the cool thing about Bandlab, I've never used it, but people that use it, is that you can collaborate with other people. You can put your songs up there. Other people can choose to add to them. You don't have to do that, but you can. I'm definitely going to be checking out Bandlab at some stage soon because I've never used it and I keep hearing good things about it. But there you go. You can see you can use it anywhere. You can use it on your iOS device. You can use it on your Android device, on your Windows, on your Mac device. It's everywhere you want to be, right? You can download the app from the App Store or Google Play, or you can use it directly in a browser. And yeah, it's got a lot of good features in there, a lot of good things that you can do. So I need to take the advice here and try it for myself. You can also do mastering directly through Bandlab, which I know a lot of people have used, and it is very, very cool indeed. So definitely check that out if you want to get into it. And yeah, while we're talking Bandlab again, there is the link. Jade has popped it here in the chat, or you can jump over to there to check out Mike and Creative Source if you want to check out more about Cakewalk by Bandlab. I don't know if Mike's actually tried Bandlab, but maybe he has. I definitely need to give it a go. Let's move on. Number 3, Reaper. Now, despite the slightly scary name, this is definitely a not scary digital audio workstation. It's very, very fun, very good to use. I used to use Reaper on my PC. Before I started into the old iOS creating, I used Reaper. It is a full-featured, super powerful, super customizational digital audio workstation. And if you're old like me, you may remember the Winamp application. Well, guess what? Same people. Yes, the brains behind Winamp, excuse me, the brains behind Winamp, because MP3 players, no one really needs an MP3 player anymore, they created this. They created Reaper. It's up to version 6 now, and it has some amazing features in there. As you can see by the difference in the website, yeah, not the bells and whistles. And in terms of user interface and usability, it has a steep learning curve, but it has a super passionate fan base of people behind the scenes who can help out. So there's a heap of forums, there's a heap of websites, there's a whole heap of places that you can go. And the good thing is you can download it and use it for free. You get a 30-day free trial of the full featured version, and then after that you can buy a license. And at last check, it was, this is their sense of humor. It says purchase, cost, not so much. Last check, it was about $65. $60, it's less. So you can buy yourself a license for $60, discounted license, or a commercial license for $225. The difference there is that the discounted license is when you're just using it for yourself. Commercial license, if you've got a whole team of people and you're producing commercial music, then you can buy the commercial license. But again, if you compare that to a lot of the monthly subscription stuff, even to something like Logic, that's $299 all up, yeah, even the commercial license at $225 is pretty affordable. And here's the good thing, a lot of people just keep using it because even after 30 days, all you get is a nag screen. You just have to wait 10 seconds when you log in. It'll say, are you still evaluating? You do, and then you keep going. So yeah, it's a very cool option, but again, steeper learning curve. Keep that in mind. It will take a while to get the hang of it. We're going to mention the OG Audacity. Now, again, Audacity, open source, cross-platform, Mac, Linux, Windows. It's been the industry standard for a free audio editor for a long time, and it's that for a reason. Now, it's not non-destructive editing, it's destructive editing. It's more like an old school kind of tape machine style. It does support multi-track, but not in an intuitive kind of way, but it does have a heap of good features. Their noise reduction and some of their plugins and effects that are built into Audacity are still some of the best going around. So if you're after, again, another free solution, you want something cross-platform, you want something that can do everything, but again, maybe has a slightly steeper learning curve, then check out Audacity at audacityteam.org. And again, open source just means that it's constantly evolving and able to be used by various different people. Let's get in to our last couple here. Now, I've got to mention Cubasis. The reason is I was looking around and I'm going, what DAWs do I recommend? I like Cubasis and I want to love Cubasis, but at the moment we have a like relationship. I'm actually planning to date Cubasis. We're hooking up in April, and I'm going to be doing a month where I'm very much focused on Cubasis 3 on the iPad and the iPhone, just to see if we are compatible, to see if we get along, and whether we end up swiping left and swiping right on each other. I'm not sure, but you can join me here on the channel to find out. But the good thing about Cubasis is it is on iPad, it's on iPhone, and it's on Android. So I know a lot of folks are sitting out there with their Android phones going, what about me? Well, I think Cubasis, from what I've seen, is one of the best options across all platforms. And I haven't used it on Android because I don't use an Android device, but folks who have it say that it works well. It works pretty well. The challenge with Android is that every device is different, yeah? Every single Android device has different features, different software versions sometimes, different hardware sometimes. So it's not like that single platform like we have with iOS. It's a lot more complex, but it is an option that you have. So there you go. Cubasis, and again, it's made by Steinberg. And as you know, I'm a non-apologetic Steinberg hardware fan, and I really need to dive more into the software to see if it's going to be for me. Does cost around about, depending on the platform, it's around about I think the $30 for the sort of cut down version, up to about $60, I think, for the full version. So it does going to cost you a little bit of coin, but once you invest in it, again, not a subscription service, you buy it, you own it, you use it. And last but not least, I have to mention Fruity Loops. And I love calling it Fruity Loops because so many producers that use FL Studio have no idea, despite the logo looking like a little piece of fruit, have no idea that it was actually called Fruity Loops. So Fruity Loops has been around since the 90s. It's a PC-based DAW, and now it is here. It's available for both Mac and PC, and it is the DAW powering the world's best music. So just like many of the producers who use it, who say they create the world's best music, because, you know, humility, yes, FL Studio powering the world's best music. So a lot of folks love FL Studio, a lot of people don't. It's a little bit of a whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you. But definitely if you're into electronic music, if you're creating beats, if you're a rapper, FL Studio is pretty good. And as you can see there, you can download it on Google Play, the App Store. You can get it on iOS as well, and on the Windows Store. So it is cross-platform, and apparently it helps a lot of people create a lot of music. And when I do Your Music Live, there's a lot of folks who say, yeah, I use FL Studio, and it works well for me. Another one that I haven't used, but is apparently an alternative that a lot of folks use. So what do you think? What do you use right now? What are you planning to use? Are you going to remain faithful to GarageBand, or are you going to go and play the field a little bit? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and see how you go with some different alternatives there, or at least some options you can tell your friends about if they don't want to join you in the wonderful world of GarageBand. Excuse me, I needed to cough right throughout that. And you get me to cough. You get to me coughing in your ear. All right, a few comments here. Sion, our friend, says, yes, I have Cubasis and Zen Beats on Android. There you go. So Cubasis and Zen Beats is another one that Sion recommends, and we trust Sion. QB says, I might switch to FL Studio or Reaper soon. There you go. QB moving away from GarageBand. That'll be sad. We're gonna lose our favorite GarageBand producers. No, not really. And that's the thing. You can use a lot. You can use a lot of different things. Gary Hub says, I used to use Audacity to reverse playback before it was available on GB Mac OS. There you go. And Michael also uses Audacity. There you go. Night Train 1988 says, I tried Cubase, got it free with a Steinberg audio interface, very much less user-friendly of GB. Yeah, I didn't mention Cubase because Cubase is the PC-based DAW, the desktop version of Cubasis. See what they did there? Cubase, desktop, Cubasis for the mobile. So yeah, I've never actually used Cubase, but again, there's a dedicated user base of a lot of those things. And as Tom says here, more and more pros seem to be using Reaper nowadays. Yeah, so the difference is if you're a pro, and say you've got a team of pros and you're creating a lot of music, or you're working with a band, or you're working with producers, Reaper, you buy it once for either $60 or $225, and you own it. And the good thing is you get 2 full upgrades. So I'm actually at the point where I need to renew my Reaper license, because I bought Reaper 3, and I got all of Reaper 3, all of 4, and I think all of 5. We're now into Reaper version 6, so I do need to buy another $60 license to keep using it if I don't want the nag screen, but I haven't used it enough lately to do that. I'm considering doing it because, again, there's just something about having a desktop DAW that does give you a little bit more flexibility. As much as I love my touch screens, and as much as I love my iPhones and iPads, sometimes a mouse and a window on a desktop, hate to admit it, can just give you that next level of flexibility. I know, come at me, everyone. I know, Pete, the mobile guy, says use a desktop. No, but for some features, sometimes it can be useful. Now, I think I've seen a question or two scroll on in here, so I'm going to scroll back up because I'm sure I saw a question from our man Rob. who says, had an issue earlier with GB. Couldn't get it to do anything, and the start button at the top of the screen was green. Just couldn't get it to play my track back. This is usually an audio type issue, Rob, in my experience at least. Oh, I've got to... I've been screen mirroring my iPad, but I clearly ranted far too long in that first section because my screen's gone away. I just need to reshare it. I've got Reflector 3 running here, and that's how I share my iPad screen to my Mac in this case. I used to use it on PC, just in case you're wondering, because I do get questions most times from people saying, how do you share your screen on your screen? Reflector 3 is the software of choice. So yeah, what you'll know is if you hit play, let's just turn the volume down because I know this one's a bit loud. If you hit play, you've got a green button. You pause, it should not be green. If it's showing as green, it's probably a problem with your audio device selection. So the first thing to do if you have this problem is to slide in from the top right corner or from the bottom if you're on a smaller device. So we'll slide from the top right corner and go to this section here. You'll notice that we have this little playback option. If you tap on that one, you'll see here, I'm going through my Steinberg UI22C. Sometimes, especially when you're using external audio, you plug in the audio and it kind of tries to convert to that and then it fails. So what I would do is come in here, tap off. So if you're using an audio device, tap back to the internal audio. In this case, I don't have any because I'm playing through AirPlay, through the Mac Mini or through the Steinberg. So I want the Steinberg. So try and tap on that one. And what that'll usually do is reset that. The other thing to do is, of course, turn it off and on. So a lot of the time, what you'll need to do is just come out and completely close out of GarageBand because it just hasn't enabled the core audio properly. And then log back in to GarageBand, go back into the project that you were using, and it'll load back up and you should get your white play button back again because it's a common issue, common enough that I've definitely had it before, and it does actually happen from time to time. Outside of that, you can turn off your device completely, turn it off and turn it all the way back on. Or the other option is to use the reset GarageBand function, which we've showed before, not in Safari, here in settings. So if you go to settings and you go to GarageBand, so down the side here, you've got all of your regular settings. But if you keep scrolling, you go to GarageBand and you can go reset GarageBand, this one down here. Tap on that one. And then the next time you load GarageBand, it'll reset. Now, it doesn't delete any of your projects. It won't delete too many of your settings. However, it will change things like this. You may need to come back here and put your keyboard labels back on or your iOS effect plugins. And it definitely will change some of your advanced settings here. So in your settings, things like your multi-track, your running background, your 24-bit, you will have to turn those back on. But there you go. There's 3 different options. Play with your audio setting, close out of GarageBand, in fact, turn it off and on, or reset GarageBand. And that's the best way because once that core audio is just not playing nice and not talking, you're not going to get it back by just pressing it on and off. Trust me, I've been there, done that. You will need to try one of those options. So hopefully that helps and works out for you there, Rob. But thank you for your question. What is Pete doing? He's doing GarageBand Weekly, my friend. So we were doing our feature topic today, which was GarageBand alternatives for those that may be looking to try that out. There you go. Yeah, give those options a try. Yeah, the reboot sometimes won't work, but give those options a try and see how you go. If you do have questions and you're just getting here, please do try to throw them here in the description, in the chat. And if you're watching on the replay, you can, of course, put them down in the comments because I'm down in the comments. I answer pretty much every comment. I spend a lot of time. I spend probably 2 hours a day reading comments and replying to comments. So you will usually get your comment answered. John Catt says, is it possible to use 2 iPads for production, a DAW on one and the apps on the other? Sort of. So yeah, you can. You could do that. You could use one iPad as an input source. I've definitely done that before, and a lot of people that do it live do. So for instance, what you could do is you could put a guitar amp simulator on your iPhone and then use the audio out from that iPhone into an audio interface on your iPad and record in your live sound. I know a lot of people that do that who are guitar loopers, who are doing live gigs. They basically have their iPhone using or another iPad using as their audio processing device. They then just simply send that device. They don't record on that. They just play with that. And then they send that out to a dedicated DAW running Cubasis or Aurea or GarageBand. And then they just record in that stereo audio so that they can use it later. So yeah, you definitely can. And over on the iPad musician group on Facebook, there's a lot of folks that have 2, 3, 4, and 5 iOS device live rigs and recording setups. So yeah, if you're interested in that, definitely do go ahead and check that stuff out. All right, let's continue on. Blueser has a tip here. It helps to turn off Wi-Fi completely with GB. It eliminates a lot of audio interference. Great tip. Yes, if you're having problems with GarageBand, do make sure that you turn off. In fact, the easiest thing, the best thing to do, if you're having problems, I won't do it, but I'll show you where to do it, is to go into airplane mode, because airplane mode will disable your wireless signals. It'll disable your radio if you've got a 4G or a 5G radio in there. All these things that can cause interference and can cause your performance to drop. So if you, again, swipe from the top right or from the bottom on smaller devices and hit the little airplane, I won't do it because we'll lose the airplay and we'll lose the screen here because I'm on Wi-Fi. Make sure Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are off because you don't need them. All they're doing is just sending out radio waves, and every bit of radio wave can and often does cause interference, or it can slow down your processing. So go into airplane mode if you're recording in GarageBand. An excellent tip there. And the other thing you may want to do is turn off your background apps. This is one that not a lot of people know about. I'll keep going into the wrong one. Come in here to your settings, and if you go here and just search for it, just search background app refresh. You might want to spell it right too. Background app refresh. Turn that off. That's your weather app, your GPS tracking app, your Spotify playlist popping up. Anything that's going to be causing background processing, you want to turn off. So just turn that button. Every single app will not be able to. So, don't try and get an Uber at the same time as you're producing and turn that off because your Uber won't find you. But if you're just at home and you're doing production on your iPad, turn off your background apps. It will improve your performance, especially if you've got a bunch of apps, if you're running things in the background. Pokemon Go player, do this because that's going to be eating up a whole lot of your battery and a whole lot of your processing power. So good tip there from our friend Blueser. Alrighty. Yeah, exactly. And definitely close out your tabs. My goodness, yeah. Go to your Safaris, your Chromes, close them all, close your tabs. You don't want that happening. Question from Yves Roy. What do you think about FabFilter Pro Q3? I haven't tried it yet. I'm pretty sure Jade Star has done a show on it. Jade, let us know if that is the case or not. But yeah, I haven't tried it yet. I've only heard good things. So, in fact, let's just check. I'll check if Jade has done a show. Jade Star, I'm almost sure she's done a Fab Filter. I've even searched it before. I reckon I've had this question before. Yeah, there you go. Fab Filter. So just search Jade Star and Fab Filter. There you go. EQ mixing a Dread Circus song with Fab Filter Pro Q3 on iOS. So no, I haven't, but as usual, Jade Star to the rescue. She has actually done a video on that one. But I do need to check it out. Here's the thing, so many apps, so many plugins, so little time. But a couple of places, Jade Star's How to App on iOS and Doug over at the Sound Test Room. Between the two of those, you're going to get pretty much every single iOS app ever released has pretty much got a video about it now. Or if it doesn't, it's on its way. So there you go. Can I do a video on how to do this setup? Yeah, I've done one in the past about how I do live streaming. If you search my name and live streaming, let's just see, Pete John's live stream. I've definitely shared a lot of it on my Patreon. Yeah, in fact, I haven't done one for quite a while. I've shown here how I use the mixer I currently use. That's this one, how I use a mixer for live streaming and recording. But yeah, good point. I should definitely do that in the next week or so. Is to do a full video on my live streaming rig, because it has kind of evolved over time to what it is now. We'll have a quick drink and then we'll see if we've got any more questions and then we'll move on. Question from Ace to BT. Should I still keep a powered USB hub in my production setup, even though I'm not using an iPad 8th generation now? Short answer is yes. So I have a powered USB hub, even though I have the iPad Pro 2020, and even though I have a USB-C dongle that I can plug my USB stuff into. The reason I go with this is simply to make sure that all my devices have power. So when you're using a dongle that's coming off of your USB-C port, so the reason Ace is asking this is that older iPads, or most iPads, use a Lightning connection. The last two, 2018 and 2020 iPad Pros, and the latest 2020 iPad Air 4th Gen, they all use USB-C. So USB-C, you can use any sort of hub or dongle. even ones that have multiple USB ports and HDMI ports, and all of that can be powered from your iPad directly. The reason I say don't is that A, it's going to drain the power of your iPad Pro a lot more. B, if you're using a lot of high processing power apps, it could have a dip in power to your devices. So say you're running an audio interface, a MIDI keyboard, a mouse and keyboard, and a USB drive, that's drawing a lot of power, yeah? So even though the iPad Pro can probably handle it, or the iPad 4th Gen can probably handle it, yeah, it's not advisable. And actually, you mentioned iPad 8th Gen, so maybe it's still the Lightning-based one. So yeah, definitely an iPad, definitely a USB-powered hub I will continue using even with my current setup, just because it's making sure that all your devices are getting direct power delivered, and then all that the iPad has to worry about is the data side. It doesn't have to worry about power at all. It frees it up to power itself and just worry about the data transfer. So that's what I would go with that one. And yeah, as Mark says down below, yep, always use a powered hub. Solves a lot of problems, saves a lot of problems. Yeah, anytime someone's having a problem with power, they're not using a powered USB hub, and it seems that anytime anyone is having a problem with powering up devices, they're not using a powered USB hub. So based on my experience and the troubleshooting that gets thrown my way, powered hubs for the win. There you go, Saga. Thank you. Saga here promised you a beer for the Brit Happy Hour. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I will enjoy that. I will go and purchase a beer post the show posthumously on the British Happy Hour. And if you did miss that, we had a lot of fun yesterday. We did the British Invasion Happy Hour. We played some Blur, some Oasis, some Queen, some Elton, some Pink Floyd, some David Bowie. If that sounds like your kind of bag, go check it out. And yeah, and if you are enjoying yourself thus far and you're having a wee bit of fun, yeah, you could do as Tom says and hit the like button. That definitely helps us out. Question: what do you rate as the best mixer for iOS? Now, this is an interesting question. The mixer I rate as the best for iOS is a mixer that I don't own, that I plan to own. I'll explain. So I've tried a few different mixers. Behind me over there, you can't really see it, there is the Roll and Go Mixer Pro. Now I really like this mixer. It's got a lot of inputs. It's got it's a small form factor. You can plug in your 3.5mm. You've got balanced TRS inputs. You got guitar in. You got microphone in. It does a lot of good things. But I find that the audio quality, it's good when you get it right, but it takes a little bit of tweaking to get things. Not just plug and play out of the box. Sounds great. It does require a little bit of tweaking. So that's definitely an option. If you're talking in terms of a larger mixer, I've tried the Zoom Live Track, as most of you know, and the reason I'm not currently using it is that Zoom haven't brought out a driver for the new Macs, the new M1 Max, so I can't use my Zoom. Now, the other problem is when I did try and use it with iOS, the one time I got it working was when it was plugged in, when it was using battery power. Now, a mixer that you have to have 8 AA batteries in all the time, not exactly the most useful and convenient thing in the world, yeah? So, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. The one that I'm leaning to, so I use the Samsung MixPad right now with my Mac, and that works well with iOS as well. So the MixPad MXP124, that's what I've been using. All of these, by the way, are over at my gear guide. So if you're looking for gear, you can go over here, that one there, studiolivetoday.com/gear. So the Samsung MixPad is a really good option. The only drawback is it's 16-bit audio, so you don't get that optimal pristine audio quality. For streaming, for podcasting, for things like I'm doing here, works a treat. And hopefully you can hear that I'm sounding pretty good coming through the Samsung MixPad. I've lost your question now. I did have it up there. That's all right. I know what we're talking about. The Yamaha MG series seems to be kind of the gold standard in terms of a mixer. So the Yamaha MG has Yamaha, which has the same Yamaha D-Pre's that the Steinberg interfaces have in them, the same converters, nice 24-bit USB converter, so you can plug it into your USB devices, and it just is, it's Yamaha. It works, it's reliable, it does the job. Problem? They're all out of stock. At least last time I checked 2 weeks ago. I'm kind of keeping an eye on it, but the last time I tried to buy one, it was no longer in stock. And I want I like the sliders. So there's the MG10 and the MG12. You can get knob versions, and I don't mind twiddling a knob, but what I do to be able to just bring a slider up and down, that works better for me. So I want the slider version. They're just simply out of stock everywhere. Yamaha are trying to get more in, they're trying to produce more, but as you know, there's been a few breaks in the production cycle. So a lot of the stuff that's produced out of China that then has to be shipped and imported to different countries, a lot of that stuff's simply not happening. So there you go. That's what I would go with. There you go. Rob has the Yamaha MG10. Yeah, a lot of people. Jade has a Yamaha MG. Ron Ward uses the Yamaha MG. A lot of people I know and trust use the Yamaha MG. So I want one. if you're listening, Yamaha, give me a shout. I need an MG. All right. Alrighty, sorry, I'm talking a lot. Yeah, and the Behringer X18 series is good. Now the Behringer, the base level Behringer series are okay. So the Behringer make their Q series of USB mixers. They're all right, but like a lot of Behringer things, they're kind of just a slightly lower grade version of what the Yamaha does. But if you want something that's going to be more affordable, yeah. But the X18 Air Behringer mixer, I've heard good things about. I've never actually used one, but I've definitely heard good things about. There you go. You still to watch it. Yeah, check out it was a lot of fun. And I even tried to hit that high note in Somebody to Love. So if you want to, if you want to experience me you want to hear a guy trying his best, we did that as well. Let's move on because we had lots of questions, which is always great, but we've got a few more things to get through here today. Let's rant, shall we? This is going to be quick. Excuse me, frog in my throat today. This is going to be quick, but my rant for today is, if you're leaving, just leave. Right? Through this week, I've had a couple of different channels, and they will remain nameless because, you know what, people can do what they want to do. And for the same reason that I'm allowed to be a little bit annoyed by what I'm annoyed by, I keep seeing these things. There seems to be this trend. I saw it on the stuff my kids used to watch where people would put titles like, "My last video ever," or "Quitting YouTube?" or anything like that. You know what? That's just clickbait at the worst level. Trying to get someone to watch something because they think there's something bad or something dramatic is happening and then it's actually not is the worst form of clickbait. So to anyone who's considering this, I know it's none of you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people that are not watching this channel. But really, could you please just stop with my last song I will ever make and my last video I shall ever produce? Because when you come back the next week with your next video and your next song, you look like a tool. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, if you're leaving, leave. If you're genuinely leaving, sure, do one video, high five everyone, last hurrah, and then leave. But don't do the whole, could I possibly be quitting and leaving, to get everyone on board to go, I can't believe. Oh, no, it's just clickbait. Anyway, what do you think, though? Does this annoy, is it just me? Or does this annoy people like it annoys me? I just hate that. Now, if you're doing a video, just say, hey, here's a cool song I wrote. Don't get an extra 1,000 views by saying something controversial and then it actually not being true. Because guess what? People like me, we unsubscribe and we never come back. All right, let's continue on. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Sorry, a bit cathartic here today, I know. I had to get that off my chest. Let's continue on with our tip of the week. And what are we talking about? Well, we mentioned it in the opening there, that we are talking about. Sorry, I'm stalling for time here because I need to get my iPad back up. Here we go. What is the difference between an audio unit and an inter-app audio instrument in GarageBand iOS? It confuses a lot of people, yeah, because there's two different ways to use external instruments. Now, let's take a step back, shall we? Because many of you may not know that you can use external instruments. You've got all of the instruments here in GarageBand, and you probably know that if you hit the plus button here, you can scroll through. You've got keyboards, you've got drums, you've got amps, you've got microphones, you've got strings and bass and guitars, world instruments. You've got a whole bunch of stuff. But have you ever stopped and looked at this one, the external, and noted that there's two different ways to add external instruments? Well, what you can do is you can download an instrument onto your iPhone or iPad, and then you can point GarageBand to it, and it will use that external instrument. Yeah, it's as cool as it sounds. Let's show you. Now, the old way of doing this was called inter-app audio. What this did is it connected GarageBand. It loads up another app and it connects GarageBand to that. So you play in the other app and it records into GarageBand. Let's show you how that works, and then we'll show you audio unit extensions, what the difference is, and why you may prefer one over the other. So if we tap on inter-app audio, here we go. We're presented with all of the different applications that I use here that support inter-app audio. Now, there's a heap of them on here, but I'm going to use Ravenscroft because this is my favorite piano. I love the Ravenscroft 275 piano. Thomas Gillane put me onto it probably a year ago now, and I haven't stopped using it. So if we tap on the Ravenscroft, what happens is it loads up this piano and we can play it. Let's just turn this up a bit. So we can play the piano. But what you'll notice is up in the top corner here, we've got little controls. We've got our play, our record, and our back button. We can also tap this GarageBand button and jump straight back to GarageBand. Here's how we're set up. We've got our clean audio track here, and we've got the Ravenscroft here. If we tap on that one, we go back to the app. So it is connecting these two apps. It's running Ravenscroft in the background while you're running GarageBand, and it's sending the audio signal from Ravenscroft into GarageBand. So here is our GarageBand. What we'll do is we'll just make sure we solo this because I'm using this on a track that's already got music. So we'll just solo this and we'll turn our metronome on. And then what we can do is, again, if we go back to that audio track, we tap on the Ravenscroft, we're loaded in here. Yeah. Now, if this is working as it should, I can hit this record button and record in some sound. Let's try it. There you go. My amazing little composition there. We hit the record button again, hit the play button, we turn it off. So we're not recording anymore. We can now jump back over to GarageBand and look what's happened up the top here. If we go back to our track view, we've recorded in, and it's recorded that audio that we've played through Ravenscroft. There it is. I mean, the volume was down a little bit too low, but you can see that it's working here. We'll just turn that metronome off. Let's take a listen. There you go. So it's recorded in. Now, the first thing you'll notice here is that it's recorded audio. So if I want to edit this, I can't. I can't go in and edit like I would a MIDI track. So the difference between this and, say, the piano that we'd use here in GarageBand is that we can't edit it. We can't edit the notes. We can't edit the sustain. We can't quantize it. We can't do any of those cool things that we can do. But wait, there's a way. And we'll show you that in a minute. It's super cool. But we can use it just like an audio track. So we can come into our settings, we can adjust the gain and the speed and the looping and other options that we have there. And we can, of course, delete this, re-record it, move it around, trim it, split it, cut it, do all the rest. So it's a good way to go. And there's so many inter-app audio instruments that you can use. It makes it a super flexible way to do things. However, there is a different, some would say better way to approach this. And that's what we're going to show here now. Let's hit the plus button again. We'll go to our external instruments and we'll hit audio unit extensions. Now here we've got a much smaller subset of instruments. And the reason being that this is a newer way of doing things. And it's a little bit more complex from the development side, which means that a lot of app developers haven't actually transitioned from inter-app audio over to audio unit v3. But it does have some advantages over inter-app audio. So let's once again grab the Ravenscroft. And this time, it looks a little different, yeah. Instead of opening up this app separately, it actually opens it up within GarageBand. So we're right here in GarageBand. There's no connection out. There it is, Ravenscroft there, and it's actually here within GarageBand. So again, we can do exactly what we did before. We can come in here and load the instrument, tap on that one there, and we're ready to go here. All right, let's try something, shall we? We'll hit record again. I didn't have my metronome on, but that's okay. You get the gist. Now let's come back out here and look at this. Yes, there you go. We've got our MIDI track now. So we've got MIDI notes in here on an external instrument. So this is why this is super cool, because now what we can do is tap on this one and go to edit, and we can actually edit the notes. So if I wasn't super happy with that, I'm like, oh, because I didn't have the metronome on, my timing there was off. Let's just bring that back there. And then we can just play it back and we can... Still doesn't sound good, does it? We can change the note. And again, if you're using a MIDI controller or you're putting things in, that can work a lot better. The cool thing is then that you can move this around. You can do exactly what you do with any other sort of MIDI information. We can go and just throw it on this other piano if we want to. You can get other piano sounds. So say we've got this, here's a good way to do it. This classical ground we've already got on here. If we move this down to our Ravenscroft, guess what? We can now play that piano part that we've already written, and we can play it here on the Ravenscroft. Cool, yeah? So you can add in instruments and just manipulate the sound just like you would any other MIDI instrument. It's very, very cool. Now, there are some advantages to inter-app audio as well. So you would have noticed that when we looked at the inter-app audio, just go back to this one, that when we selected our instrument, well, we're going to have to add a new one, aren't we? Hang on, hold the phone, Mavis. We'll come in here. When we selected a new one, that you'll notice that things like AUM and audio bus have a whole bunch of really cool options here that you can play around with. See all these little aux sends that we have that are coming out of Auria, that are coming out of audio bus. There's a lot of different multi-channel options, thumb jam as well. They have a lot of different slots and a lot of different ways to connect your apps with GarageBand. So there's definitely advantages of inter-app audio over audio unit plugins. The problem is it is going to be deprecated. Now, Apple haven't said exactly when, but when GarageBand 2.3.8 was released and iOS 13 was released, they did say that eventually inter-app audio is going away and everything will be audio unit extensions. So if you're buying new apps or if you're investing in apps, keep that in mind that eventually inter-app audio will likely not be a thing. Now, we don't know when that will be, and hopefully most of your app developers have implemented some sort of AUV3 way of doing things before then. But there you go. If you've ever been wondering, what are these external instruments? How does inter-app audio work? How does audio unit instruments work? And what the heck is the difference? Now you know. Hopefully that helped you out. Yeah, it is super fun. Like once you get into it, you're going to get addicted to it, right? You're totally going to get addicted to all of the different ways. And if you've been using GarageBand for a while and you're used to all the instruments that are in there, it just broadens your horizon hugely. There you go. And yeah, as Jon says, you can start doing stuff. Like I haven't even touched on audio bus and AUM and routing and mixing, and yeah, there's some crazy stuff that I know a lot of people in the community use a lot. Yeah, so Blueser, this is a good point. Sometimes you will actually get the icons here, especially in GarageBand here at the moment. So sometimes when you're using inter-app audio or when you're using effects, there is a bug at the moment that sometimes instead of it showing the actual, what's one that I was trying last time? When I put Bruce Free on here, yeah, so instead of having that little ear, I can't get it to break now, but it's honestly been doing it to me quite a bit too. When you put your thing on like that, it'll actually just put the little orange icon. It'll look like this. Now, it doesn't actually impact these. Yeah, so it'll look like one of these. Doesn't actually impact the usefulness or the functionality, but it's just a bit of a pain in the ass because the app developers go to a lot of effort to make their little app logos look all sweet and cool. And then they have a big, ugly orange one there instead. So, yeah, it is a common thing that a lot of people have. Exactly. Hello to my buddy over there at Mobile Music Pro. Yeah, there's so many AUV3 apps and more coming all the time. If you watch Mobile Music Pro, if you watch the Sound Test Room, if you watch Jade Star, they could do a show a day for the next 3 years and still not cover all the existing AUV3 apps, let alone all the new apps that keep coming out. So it's one of those things that don't let it bog you down. Remember, if you're here to create music, make sure you're creating music. You can get completely caught up in the whole, I've just got to try this one new app and this one new plugin, this one new instrument. Yeah, but make sure that you're doing it for a reason. The way I look at it is, and look, if unless you like that, here's the thing. Don't let me tell you what to do. If you like playing with new toys and if you like noodling with the latest and greatest, go for it. You do you. Go your hardest. But the thing is, if you're here to create music, if you're trying to make a song, the way I look at it is just use the stock stuff. Use your stock GarageBand, your stock Cubasis, your stock Auria, whatever you're using, until you hit a point where you're like, I really need to be able to do this. I really need a reverb that sounds like it's just coming out of the chambers of hell. Well, then you go and get yourself a reverb. You get yourself the Altezza from FAC. So that's the sort of thing I think, the GarageBand EQ is just not cutting it anymore. Okay, I need to get a better EQ. Go and find yourself a new EQ. They're the sort of things that I think work if you're creating music. If you just want to play with toys, that's fine. But yeah, just when you come to me after spending $300 and you don't have any songs finished, that's the problem, right? All right. Question from Sean Rose. Excuse me. I've been making full-length songs using GB for a couple of years, but I could make my own 20-second loops using the... could I make my own 20-second loops using the GB instruments and sell them on individually? Short answer is yes. So here's the thing with loops. GarageBand are pretty specific about this. They say you can use GarageBand instruments, loops, and everything else for commercial reasons and commercial purposes, as long as you are not trying to just repackage one individual loop. So my advice is if you're creating a song or a loop or anything, you can do whatever you want. Just at least have 2 different loops or sounds playing at any given time. So if you have a big chunk of a song that is just one Apple loop, you're treading on very thin ice, because if anyone else has ever used just that one Apple loop and copywritten or YouTube content ID'd that song, then it could say that, hey, your 5 seconds matches their 5 seconds. So change it, change the key, reverse it, chop it, put something else with it. Always be combining, A, B, C, always be combining different loops and different samples and different sounds, because if you have something that's too simplistic that's just using a loop, then it could get tagged as someone else's music, and you don't want that. But yeah, if you do like if you get 8 tracks and you put together a funky loop that uses a couple of Apple loops, a couple of Apple instruments, and maybe a couple of external things, you're going to be absolutely fine. And you can totally do that. People have been doing that, creating samples, creating loops, creating beats, and selling them and doing a good job with it. So absolutely a possible thing to do. Question from Larry. Does anyone know how to get sound fonts into GarageBand? I've been asked this a bunch of times, and I believe you can. Someone was telling me you can. I just haven't got around to actually trying it or working out how. So sound fonts are, how to explain them? They're kind of like instruments. They're like a sound. They're not samples, but they're not virtual instruments. I don't know. Clearly, I don't know my stuff. I think it's possible. If anyone here in the chat or watching the replay knows, then please do drop it in the comments. Would love to know. I think I've got one more question and then we'll move on. Rob B says, what is the easiest way to change pitch on an already recorded MIDI in GB? Let's say by an octave. Try one of the effects in GB. Some sets couldn't figure. Yeah, so easiest way to change pitch on MIDI. So changing pitch on MIDI is actually pretty straightforward, Rob. What you need to do is let's come into a MIDI track. Now, changing pitch on audio is different. I'll show you something on that. But if we're just going with MIDI for now, let's grab this synth. And if we play this synth at the moment, it sounds like this. Bad choice, but say we wanted to change this. So you want to transpose this by an octave. We tap on it. We tap again. We go to settings and we go to transposition. So we want this to be an octave higher. We want a cool, like, high leady synth kind of sound. We hit that one, and now played it halfway through. If we want to drop it back down, we come here, let's drop it down 2 octaves, down to here, and when it actually triggers another note, we're way down here, yeah? So that's the easiest way. When you're looking at your MIDI notes, you can transpose using that by going down octaves or a number of semitones. Yeah, if you play around with the AU new pitch plugin, that's what you need to do if you're using an audio track. So say instead of using this one, I wanted to change the pitch of my guitar track, which is actually a recorded track. If we came in here, then what I'd need to do is add in a plugin like this one, the AU new pitch. And this is probably what you're playing around with, where you can then go, right? Yeah, so you can play around with the pitch there, and you can do that in cents. It requires a bit of a working knowledge of what cents are and how many cents there are in a semitone, and then you can use the overlap and the formant to make it sound better. It never quite works. I've got videos on both of those. So I've got videos on how to transpose. So just search Pete John's MIDI transpose or search Pete John's new pitch. The other way to go, if you really want to get into sort of manipulating some audio, is an app called Audio Stretch. So this is about a $10 app. And what you can do is bring in a track here, and then you can change the speed or the pitch or both. So you can independently up the speed by a certain percentage there, or you can change the pitch by a number of semitones. And that's a quick and easy way, especially the pitch side of it, quick and easy way to re-pitch and to transpose your audio files. As opposed to the MIDI that you can do right there within GarageBand. So hopefully that helped you out. How are we going? We're overtime. We've still got a couple of sections to go. So we've done the tip of the week. I'll do the plugin of the week because it's going to be a pretty quick one here. And that is what were just showing there. So I'll just come back to here. So there are actually 15. We talked about audio unit plugins. There's 15 free AUV3 plugins built right into GarageBand. I just showed one of them there, which is this one, the AU New Pitch, and there's a heap of others as well. And the way to get to these is here in GarageBand, select your track, whatever track you want to use, go to your mixer icon. Now it's up here in the top left if you're on an iPad. It might be under a drop down in the top right if you're on a smaller iPhone, but go to your mixer and then go to plugins and EQ. From here, you just need to hit the edit button, and you should get at least one additional slot. Here on a guitar amp, you only get one slot. If we go to, say, a one like this, like microphones, you get a bunch of slots here. But we'll use this one. We hit that button there, and we go to audio unit extensions. Now, I've downloaded a heap here. Anytime you buy or you download a free audio unit extension, it comes here. And if you're getting started, the one I'd recommend getting is this, LRC5. There's that error. Blues has said this before. There's that error that we get where it actually just only shows that orange icon, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But what we can do is we've actually got, before you even buy or download anything, you have down the bottom here all of these. And you might be thinking, well, what are these? These are actually Apple's built-in AUV3 plugins. You've got a bandpass filter, delay, distortion, dynamics, high pass, high shelf, pod EQ. You've got a bunch of these. Now, I've covered most of these in separate videos. So if you search my name, Pete Johns, and the name of these, then I've showed them. So the new pitch, I've done one on. The peak limiter is a great limiter to use for mastering if you don't have any other limiter. You've got an extra reverb here. You've got extra delays and distortion. So if we throw this delay on here, for instance, and we come over here, let's take a listen to what it sounds like out of the box by default. Not super good yet because we haven't set it. But here's the cool thing. They don't look super sexy, but you've got a whole heap of parameters in here, which is fun. So you can see how much of that delay you want in here, your dry wet mix. You can see the delay time. So you can get a really quick slap back delay here if you want to do something like this. And of course, if that's too much, you can just dial the dry wet down. How much feedback you're going to get there. So if we make it lots of feedback and a really, really wet mix, we can... you can go a bit nuts. And you've even got a low pass cutoff frequency. So like I said, the interfaces aren't wonderful, but you know what? Free is free. And you might as well start playing around with these. Now, there's one little tip here. If you don't have these, what you may need to do is actually enable them if you've never used them before. And to do that, you come out here and you go into your settings, which that one was, but it keeps changing back into Safari. Go into your settings app here. And under GarageBand, over here on the left, if you scroll on down, under GarageBand, which is this one here, then you can come on down here and do this one. Enable iOS effect plugins. You turn that one on, you close and you reload. You may need to turn off and on, and then you can go ahead and use those free plugins. And again, they don't look cool, but they're super useful. And that was just one of them. If we just show another one here, we'll remove the delay. Let's throw on... what else? What's a really confusing one? It's not too confusing, but like a low-pass filter. If you just want a very simple low-pass filter, all you have there is your cutoff frequency and your resonance. So you can very quickly and easily put a low-pass filter in. Why would you use these over third-party plugins? Well, they're built in. They're Apple's AU V3 plugins. They're using very low amount of processing power. So that is why you would use them here in GarageBand. What do you reckon? Do you use them already? They're kind of fun, yeah? We are right on time, yeah. We're nearly ready to go. Jade Star is kicking off in not 5 minutes, but 1 minute, looking at the Bliss Motion FX. I know nothing about this app, but it sounds cool, and I'm sure you can use it in GarageBand. Yeah, if you're intrigued by learning about AUV3 plugins, when we talked about them just now, you'll want to jump over to Jade Star's channel right now and check out her talking about the Bliss Motion FX. Guess what? We're done, but we're not done. In 3 hours' time, we have the Creator Town Hall. So if you had a question here today, it didn't get answered, you want to chat about things, you want to hear more rants and more information and more home recording goodness and a whole bunch more, do tune into that. So we'll be here in 3 hours' time for a big 2-hour show. Lots of questions, lots of topics, lots of things to talk about and to cover in the show today. So I hope you join me there after Jade's show, and you can take a couple of hours off and have a bit of a break, and then kick back on and finish your weekend the right way with some Creator Town Hall. Thanks for being here, folks. As we say at the end of every show, please be kind to yourselves. You deserve it. be kind to others because they do too, and keep creating. We'll see you real soon. Bye now.